Live from our nation's capital, you're in the War Room. It is Monday, the 16th of November, year of our Lord, 2020, our afternoon special podcast now with over 19 million downloads. I think we're the 18th biggest podcast in the nation. All verticals, that's sports, entertainment, all of it. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network nationwide. Real America's Voice, the streaming platform of the Trump Revolution. Also Dish Channel 219 and Comcast Channel 113. Newsmax TV, and of course G News and GTV throughout the world. Broadcast in Mandarin and every other platform. We're back on YouTube. We slowly emerge from our penalty box. Remember the show Too Tough to Die. We've got Maggie Vanderberg, Greg Manns, Jack Maxey in the War Room this afternoon, producer Vish and Dan. We're going to be joined later ahead from Real America's Voice. Maggie and Amanda are going to take a big hunk of the first hour of the show and talk about the rally on Saturday, the march for Trump. Also going to have Richard Barris later talk about the data and a lot of legal. Want to go to now Dave Kallman of the Great Lakes Defense Center that's in state court has a suit walking through violations of Michigan law that took place during Election Day. Dave, you lost in a district court. You've put in an appeal. What we wanted to have you on today is, one, the status of that appeal, and number two, we were pretty shocked as we went through what the judge said. They basically said in so many words, your affidavits, your witnesses either A, didn't know how elections really ran, or B, were liars. So give us an assessment where we stand, and what's the probability this is going to get any traction? Because in the chorus of the anti-Trump, oh, he lost and it's time to move on, they continue to throw out our Michigan speed bump you hit on Friday.
Right. Well, the judge ruled the way he ruled, but he made many factual errors himself in his opinion. And I find it interesting. I've not, in my experience, seen a lot of trial judges rule on credibility of witnesses that they haven't even seen. He did not hear from these witnesses in court directly. And much of what our witnesses testified to was not refuted by the affidavits on the other side. And so, that's why we have courts. That's why we're disagreeing with his decision. And we filed this morning in the Court of Appeals, and we're proceeding ahead and asking our Court of Appeals to overturn the trial judge and to issue the injunction, and also against the certification of the election, and to order an audit of the vote itself. So that's what we asked for today.
The timing, I think, and Greg, I think it's the 23rd or 24th. Is the timing. In fact, isn't it tomorrow at the district level? You've got to essentially be certified. So you're burning daylight, right? And you're asking for a pretty big, you have a pretty big ask. Injunctive relief to stop everything, and then to ask for an audit, which is not a process audit. You want to have a results audit. So it's a big ask. Do you think you've got, as we call it here in the War Room, the receipts? You think your witnesses are bring that? Because what the press is, the media said is that, hey, it's a bunch of people that maybe shoulda, kinda, and they never filed complaints, and it was, basically whining. It was the loser's remorse of what you had. Do you think what you've got is stronger?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Look. We have an affidavit from Ruth Johnson, who's our immediate past Secretary of State. She reviewed our complaint. She reviewed all the affidavits from our witnesses, and she said there's a lot of really serious issues being raised here, and she signed a sworn affidavit herself urging the court to grant the relief that we're requesting. So it's funny how, this seems to fall on political lines here if you're on one side or the other in this case. Either you don't know what you're talking about, or there's a lot of substance and meat to this. That's why we're in the appellate court. There'll be a panel of 3 judges that'll decide it, and we go from there. But to give you one example, Steve, of the errors that the court made in its opinion Friday, one of the things he gave a lot of weight to this 3 different times in his opinion. He asked for, or he said that the witnesses and the plaintiffs in this case should have gone to this meeting. It was about 3 or 4 days before the election, 4 poll challengers, and that they didn't go to the meeting, and if they had gone, maybe that might have changed their outlook or that sort of thing, and he held it against them that they didn't go to this meeting. The only problem was they were never told about the meeting, and they were never notified, and then the judge says, well, you didn't go to this meeting that you didn't know about, and so I'm going to hold it against you. That's absurd. That's ridiculous.
In this, okay, I got that. In the substance of it, though, is it because he implied that, and it kind of didn't go with the experience you had of your witnesses in the affidavits, but it kind of implied, even Ruth, these guys really didn't understand how elections are run in Michigan. So even going for the one-day training, so what is your defense of that? These people are very experienced, at least what it reads, but he treated them like they're just kind of amateurs, don't really know how
Right.
election run, because this is a really normal course of business stuff that happened.
Right. And that's just simply not true. Like, for example, he talks about the monitors. There are big monitors on the tables where the counting was going on. And as people opened up ballots, their names would be entered and they would scroll on this big monitor. And so the judge says, well, they had access to view the monitor. That's good enough. They didn't have to have access to see the actual ballots being opened and being able to see the names. Well, that makes no sense. I mean, how can you be a poll challenger and determine whether or not John Smith's ballot is pulled out and it says John Smith? You look at the monitor and then you see John Smith's name, when all you're seeing is a monitor saying John Smith's name. You don't know that that was the ballot that was just pulled out and counted, because they were denying poll challengers the right to observe, as they're allowed to do under the law. And then when ballots are duplicated, for example, another situation with damaged ballots and things like that, our affidavits and witnesses say very clearly they're entitled to have a person there observing that process of duplicating a ballot, and they denied them that right. So how do we know they were duplicating these ballots correctly or voting for somebody else? Even if the person whose ballot they're duplicating said they were voting for Trump, they could have put down Biden. And how would anybody know? Because they were being denied the right to observe. You can say what you want, and you could try to denigrate our witnesses. That's clear fraud and problems and violations of the law. And that's why Ruth Johnson, a former Secretary of State who ran elections in our state for 8 years, said we have a valid case.
Dave, one of the reasons this is important is that I know they're two separate cases, but the Trump campaign's case in federal court does incorporate some of your affidavits, and that's why I think the ruling on these affidavits is going to be, and the witnesses are going to be important. David, what's your social media? How can people follow you during the day?
Sure. Everything that we've been talking about here, our complaints, the affidavits, our appeal today, it's all at our website, greatlakesjc.org. You can go to the website, see it all right there, download it, read through it for yourself. And you can see the substance to our claims and to our witnesses and what they observed of actual fraud.
Well, hopefully you're here tonight or first thing in the morning about the appeals courts. David, thank you very much for joining us today on War Room.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
I know we get into the granularity of this. And Greg Mans, correct me if I'm wrong, a couple things. That looks like the Pennsylvania situation sorted out. Jenna, I don't know if we have that poll, but she was on. She pretty well explained it. There's a little confusion last night, but now it is absolutely. They're arguing both things in Pennsylvania court. They're going to be up there. Supposed to be 1 o'clock tomorrow. I think they're talking about maybe a delay, but we now know in Pennsylvania they're going to be arguing equal protection and the possibility. I tell you, we got John Fredericks. We'll get back to this in a second. John, thank you for joining us on War Room. Pandemic, and I know you're in Georgia, and I know you had the great Lynn Wood on today, which we're going to try to get that polled and play it. But can you, right to this afternoon, the Secretary of State, or this morning, threw down on the president, the teams down there, all of it. Can you please explain, because I think of all of these situations, the one that is the most difficult for Trump people to understand, it's what's going on in Georgia with elected Republican officials and whatever this recount is or whatever they're doing. Can you explain what's happening?
Well, the recounts are first. except today, let me just tell you what happened about an hour ago. In Clayton County, which is in North Georgia, they just found 2,631 ballots that were not counted. The Dominion software machine didn't count them. I confirmed this 20 seconds ago before I got on air with you, Steve. 1,900 of those were for Donald Trump. 731 were for Joe Biden, is what I'm told. So basically, right off the bat, they do a phony recount, and all of a sudden in North Georgia, in Clayton County, they find 2,631 ballots that the machine didn't count. Now, we don't know how many more of these are out there, but the outrage in Georgia is building. You have got now 11 state senators. They have 34 Republicans in total. You have 11 state senators now, led by North Fulton moderate Republican Senator Brandon Beach. We've given him a nickname, #Beach Balls, because the guy's standing up for everybody. He's got 11 senators demanding that the governor, Brian Kemp, call a special session immediately. Kemp has not responded. Not only hasn't he said he's not going to do it, he doesn't even bother to respond to these people. This is his own party. Meantime, Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, and Jeff Duncan are aligned. They keep saying, we're not going to resign, everything is fine, we're doing the recount by the law. Here's the problem. They just found 2,631 ballots that never got counted. That's just in one county. We don't know what is going on. We had Lynn Wood on today, famed attorney, who said that he is going to expose, he said, corruption in Georgia that is going to knock your socks off. Go to John Fredericks' show, the YouTube channel there. You can get the whole interview. It's fascinating, Steve. You got to go through the whole thing. But here's what Lynn Wood said. He said that a deal was cut by Stacey Abrams and Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State. Stacey Abrams, Democrat that ran for governor in 2018, Kemp beat her by 50,000 votes. They cut a deal that basically said we're going to change the way we do the election during COVID. Well, guess what? That deal was never submitted to the General Assembly, which they have to do under Georgia law. Not only that, Senator Beach said today, it was not only never submitted to us to look at, we never heard about it. It was hidden until this whole thing blew up. They're demanding now that this go to the General Assembly. And what Lynn Wood said, almost done. What Lynn Wood said is, Steve, is that the suit that he filed alleges that the election was fraudulent under Georgia law. And he's saying that absolutely with all certainty, he's saying that there will be another Georgia election for everybody except the president. And that'll go to the General Assembly.
John, can you hang on for 1 second, because I got to come back on this consent. I know you got to go out to an important meeting. Just hold through the commercial.
That's fine. I'm good, Steve.
Okay, but John Fredericks Radio.
I love our commercials.
You love it. I love the spots too. John Fredericks is down in Georgia. He shifted the flag of the John Fredericks Radio Network down there for this to make sure that President Trump can close the victory that he won. We're going to return with the entire war room, John Fredericks, in a moment.
Bring it on and I will fight to the end. Just watch and see. It's all started. Everything's begun. And you all...
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Yeah, well, any lawyer knows that you have an initial complaint and you file amended complaints after that to clarify, to make sure that you have your best arguments put forward. This is nothing that's irregular or out of the ordinary. But what you had from Washington Post was absolutely lazy, incompetent journalists who didn't bother to read the entire complaint. They just wanted to rush out with their fake news headlines and try to be anti-Trump and say that somehow we have discarded arguments that we absolutely did not. If they bothered to read paragraphs 1 132 to 150, they would see that we incorporated all of the ballot counting issues in our lawsuit. We dropped nothing, so they should print a retraction.
I like her a lot. You know why? She's got no back down in her. Boom. She's just delivering it. Boom. That's one of the lawyers. That's Jenna Ellis, is it? For the campaign. She's a hammer and doing a lot of communication. I want to go. Okay, John Fredericks, you're breaking news here in the war room. My head's blowing up. First off, Dominion, this Dominion system thing, we got to slow down and take our time. This guy, people are sending me stuff. They're recruiting in Bulgaria, Romania. They got, these are the hacking capitals of the known universe, right? This is where all the guys that wanted to say the Hillary Clinton emails. Every guy had the 33 million emails, right? 1,000 guys over there. In Serbia, they're recruiting in Serbia. I think they got a Serbian office. So you're telling me already the first day of the recount, Clayton County, they're missing 20. They got 2,600 votes pop up. You go all over the state, that's how Trump loses. It's so funny, too, that they do it in a county that Trump's got a big margin of victory. I'm so shocked. But you broke even more news. In this one, because the consent is from 6 March of 2020.
Well, it's a compromise settlement agreement and release, just so we don't get hammered by the technocrats.
But my point is, you're saying that the state senator told you, Senator Beachballs told you that he had never heard of it?
He didn't know anything about it. The entire General Assembly, he said, knew nothing about this. And what he said, and then what Lynn Wood said, is this is now an illegal election because the only entity under the Georgia Constitution, what the senator said and what Lynn Wood said, it's got to be affirmed by the General Assembly. Beach on my radio said today, Senator Beach, again, this is not a Trump America First guy. He's a moderate Republican that gave money to Jeb Bush in 2015, right? That's who he is. He's a good guy, right? But he's not part of the movement per se, but he's had enough. And he said that they were never told about it. He said that Nathan Deal, governor of Georgia, 2 terms, wanted some changes in the way they do elections. He presented his bill to the General Assembly. They debated it. They passed it. He signed it. Done deal. That's the way it works. This consent decree or whatever it is that they put together with Stacey Abrams so they didn't get sued or they could get a good write-up in the AJC or whatever they did, I have no idea. But the bottom line is, Lynn Wood today said, and you can go to that tape. It's on our YouTube channel on the John Fredericks Show. You can go right there. It's a must-watch. He said with 100% certainty, the election down ballot in Georgia will be nullified. And he said there is not going to be a runoff. There's going to be a totally new election, except for the president, he said, that'll be decided in the Georgia General Assembly.
It'll be deemed non-certified. This is my point.
It's illegal.
It's all going to be you're not going to be able to certify in these states, and we've said this now for weeks, you're not going to be able to certify. The key date's the 14th because you're not going to have 270 certified votes from states that add up to 270 electoral votes are going to show up in state capitals. And take a deep breath. Everything's fine. The framers and the folks at the 100th anniversary of the Declaration in 1876, they figured it out. It's called a contingent election, and it will take place in the House of Representatives. Because you're not going to have, by the way, Georgia, cross Georgia, cross it through Georgia right now. Joe Biden in the stealing machine. Fredericks, you're breaking huge news here. You made me feel so much better about Georgia already. And we're going to pull the Lynn Wood, because that guy is a rock star. I mean, the way he explains things is so to the point. It's just incredible. So
you go through that tape, it's going to knock your socks off. I mean, I normally have people on like yourself, or Cory for a segment. Here's the other breaking news sidebar today is we had a lot of news today on my show, Steve. Cory Lewandowski got on and basically said the Trump campaign failed miserably, and he laid it out. And there's nobody that's been a more fervent or dedicated supporter of the president than Cory Lewandowski. He said 1,800 people, they were more interested in advancing their own careers than getting the ball over the finish line. He was also critical of the $200 to $300 million that was blown over the summer. They ran out of money, and he said they were caught short-handed. In a lot of these states, they didn't have the lawyers there or the personnel there because they ran out of money and it was mismanaged. So he was not happy today.
He's a great. I love Cory. My focus now would be with John Fredericks. Trump won. Let's close the deal. Later, we can figure that we can have the hot wash up where we sit there and go through all the mess ups, because there definitely were some.
I'm with you. But who knows? And here's what you just said, right? So they find 2,600 ballots they didn't count. The machine didn't count in Trump country. Why did they find them in Fulton County? Why didn't they find them in Biden country, where the ballots where he was getting like 99% or 100%? They didn't find him there. They find him in Rome, Georgia.
Of course.
Unbelievable.
Okay, brother, we're going to see you. By the way, you're connected now this Saturday at high noon at the Georgia State Capitol. The same folks, the Kramer girls, Amy Kramer and her daughter, Kylie Lynn, are assisting and putting on another massive march and rally down in Georgia. And I got to tell you, John, this one ought to be more intense than the one that was here in Washington, D.C. This is unacceptable. Governor Kemp's got to come out of hiding. First off, he's got to step up to a microphone. He's got to step up to a microphone and explain to the Georgia General Assembly what in the heck this deal is, why he cut it, and why he didn't tell anybody about it. It's outrageous.
Unbelievable. It's the whole thing is outrageous, Steve. And of course, we'll be there covering it live because I'm here. I've moved my headquarters to Atlanta right through January 10th. Our whole office here. We've got people here on the ground. And don't forget, we're launching a new daily digital newspaper, the Georgia Star News. Georgia Star News. That launches, Steve, on Thursday to bring light and transparency to Georgia. Georgia Star News. Check it out on Thursday, georgiastarnews.com.
Thank you very much, John Fredericks. Go listen to you tomorrow. John Fredericks of John Fredericks Radio Network, our producing partner, along with Real America's Voice. Maggie, talking about this rally, let's go back to Saturday. Historic moment in the MAGA movement. What do you got for us?
It was a historic moment. I've never seen a gathering of Trump supporters that large. You compare the largest Trump rally, this was beyond that by multiples. They estimate there was upwards of 1 million people there. It was so massive that it was hard for me to even get my hands around, wrap my brain around. And it's funny because I was saying there were all these friends that I knew who were there that I was hoping to see that I never even saw the entire day. I was lucky enough to get interviews with many people, and I actually cut together a highlight reel of some of those interviews. If we're able to play that,
can we play it right now? Let's play this from Maggie Vandenberg from Saturday. We're going to tee it up. By the way, you said something. Let me know when it's ready to roll. Go ahead. Let's hit it.
This is Fog City Midge in Washington, D.C. at the March for Trump, Million MAGA March, the Stop the Steal March. All of these groups came together to stand up for President Trump and to speak out against the election fraud. So tens of thousands of patriots are here. Let's go talk to some people.
What's going to happen to the country if this fraud is allowed to go through? It'll destroy the country. We're not the type of people who are going to go around and burn down cities. We're not going to do all that. But we're not going to let our country be taken from us either.
And Trump's been fighting for us for almost 4 years, and this is the least we could do is come out.
We love you, President Trump. Do not concede. We know you won this election fair and square.
It's not about stopping the voting process from happening. It's about stopping the illegal ballots from being counted and having a fair, honest election. This should be a landslide victory for Trump. That's a fact.
We're taking over D.C. right now. Like, this is the largest Trump crowd I've ever seen in my life.
It is BS, and we have to make sure that this doesn't happen again. If they win this time, we'll never be able to stop them again. Or another Republican will win again. If you're a Democrat or Republican, I don't care who you are, come out here because this is our democracy. We have to defend it. President Trump, I got your back, man.
We can recognize BS when we see it. So you have almost 1 million people here, I would guess.
You fought for us for 4 years. We're going to fight for you now. don't concede. We've got your back.
And we want people to know, hey, what's going on isn't right, and we really should stand up for our country, stand up for what you believe in.
Keep going, Mr. President. We love you for what you've done for this nation, and we look forward to 4 more years.
I love you so much. I wish I could re-enlist, but I can't. So I'm here fighting every day for you like you're fighting for us.
I came out to show support to Donald Trump, that I appreciate him fighting hard for us for 4 years, and that I'm here to support him in the fight to win the next 4 years.
Came to stop the steal. Came to make sure that Trump gets in there.
We just want the election to be fully audited, and we want to show support for a man who has done an amazing job representing the people.
This time, this election is cheating. We cannot believe. If they win, no more democratic system. So we must stand up. We need stand up for USA.
We, the Vietnamese Americans, support Trump. We love the country and we want a fair election. There's no way that the Democrat and Joe Biden steal the election from the country, from American people.
We got some love over here.
Oh, you know you got some love. I'm a big fan of the War Room, big fan of Fox City Midge. You know, you got to take it to the Democrats and tell them you ain't going to steal it from us. We see what you're doing in Georgia. We see what you're doing in Pennsylvania. We see what you're doing in Michigan and Wisconsin and Arizona. We're not going to let that happen. And we have your back, and we're going to fight because you fought for us for 4 years. We're going to fight for you until December 14th or January 20th or however long it takes for you to become the next president of the United States.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
I think Maggie Vanderberg is in studio. We're going to bring on Real America Voices, Amanda Head, in a second. But you said something in the morning show that, because you've covered a lot of rallies, before they came out to see Trump, Saturday they came out to support Trump.
Yeah.
Right? They put it on their shoulders. Now, he came and did, he drove through in the Beast, but he didn't need to do that. And it was great for the crowd that was there, but it wasn't necessary. They were there to say, we've got your back, and we're not backing down 1 inch. But that's the power of what you cut together. And I hope of the many hours of footage you continue to cut these, because that was spectacular. We got to push that out. That'll go viral.
Yeah.
Want to bring
we got
in,
a lot more of that.
Yeah, you got
hours of it.
You got to keep cutting that, because that is Americana right there. That shows you the diversity. That shows you the inclusiveness. That shows you also the grit and determination. It's in the almost joy, right? If you compare and contrast that joy versus the darkness of the Antifa and just got to beat up people and all this stuff, it just let America look at that. That's why this movement's on the rise. New York Magazine's got this huge story today. In fact, we want to post that the Trumpism is not going away anytime soon. They're now in the mumble tank. All the left understands. Saturday was, I think, the thing that showed them this thing is here. It's massive. It's inclusive, and it's growing, and it's positive. I want to bring Amanda Head now from Real America's Voice. Amanda, I just got to tell you, we had Ben Berquam on, and Howard Diamond and all the team there in Denver and in D.C. The best coverage of this, bar none, was Real America's Voice, right? This was a historic day in American political history, in a incredibly important day in the history of MAGA. And the coverage generally overall by cable was, I think, disgraceful. And what you guys did was incredible. So walk us through your day, walk us through your impressions, walk us through, put us in the middle of that march.
Yeah, as you guys articulated perfectly, this was an instance of recompense for President Trump's supporters for years. I mean, even, they consider the first 2 years of a presidential term the honeymoon period. The second 2 years you spend campaigning for the next 4 years. And what Saturday showed to everyone is that President Trump, for all of his campaigning and the rallies that he did for the people, he fought for the American people, and this was a chance for the American people to show that they are fighting for him. And like you said, I don't think that MAGA is going anywhere. I think that one of the reasons why the left thought they could get away with basically rigging this election is because, we've all been doing this a while. We remember what the Republican Party was like before Donald Trump, and it was the party who would say, well, maybe they cheated, but we should just move on. Let's pack up our tent and get out of here. And that's not the Republican Party anymore. And Saturday was the perfect example of that. Everyone who was there was so excited and pumped up about the president. And I have to admit, before I went, I didn't really know what I was going to see as far as attitude, because if you're on social media and you know, we're all in the media, so we all kind of try to keep an eye and keep our nose to the ground when it comes to what the mainstream media networks are saying. So we have to kind of be exposed to, you know, their fact checking, their censorship, all of the things that they do to ultimately get Joe Biden inaugurated in January. So I was a little concerned that I was going to come there and people were going to be a little bit downtrodden. But it was the complete polar opposite. I have never seen so much joy on people's faces. And I think it's because a lot of people feel like this is the war of our generation. We're not fighting with tanks and rifles and artillery, but we are fighting. We are fighting with our voices. We are fighting with our freedom. And we are fighting with, you know, our First Amendment, our ability to show up and show out for this president. And people were absolutely thrilled to be there. It was a beautiful thing to happen until, of course, the sun went down and then Antifa came in and created utter anarchy.
Before I get to we're going to get to that in 1 second, but I want to ask something, because this is what's so unique. That it not just was because I thought, yeah, you could have downtrodden, so it wasn't downtrodden. But there also wasn't this burning anger, but it was resolve. It was this steely resolve and this kind of upbeat optimism that's it's from America from a time gone by. Steely resolve, very optimistic, and we've got this. Right? We've got this. That's what I'm sitting there going, wow.
Yeah.
That's the perfect combo, right? You don't need to be angry when you've set yourself in a course and I'm not going to be taking a course. Is that what you saw that day?
Absolutely. And, you know, I know that you guys like to quote Thomas Paine, especially when he talks about sunshine patriots and summer warriors. These are people who are showing up in the face of adversity, but they're also happy warriors. These are people who, you know, whether it's the fact that they're doing better in life than they were 4 years ago, whether it's because they just purely have a lot of love and joy for Donald Trump because of what he embodies to them, there wasn't anger until the sun went down and darkness set in. And I've spoken about this on air today. A lot of people have asked, you know, and if you look at mainstream media, they will tell you that the violence was coming from both sides. And sure, you get a little bit of violence. There are always your bad bananas in each bunch. But you can't be a critically thinking individual and look at the timeline of what happened during the day. Look at these hours and hours and hours of peace and joy and unity. And then look at the timeline when Antifa and BLM shows up and see that that was when the violence ensued. You can't be a very serious person and say, oh, well, the violence was coming from both sides. We know who it was coming from.
Let me ask you, because you've seen a media suppression of this entire thing. You've clearly seen social media suppression. For our audience, because you're a lot more in tune with the social media aspect of it, people ask us all the time, what can they do? How can they help? How can they be a warrior? How can they be a force multiplier? What's your advice in this era where the oligarchs are shutting down all the voices, whether it's Fog City Midge, whether it's you, it's making it more difficult, whether it's in Facebook or Twitter. Midge just told us, and we're getting more in detail after we leave Amanda, about Stonewall Jackson, the guy being taken down. So, Amanda, what's your recommendation to the audience that want to get involved, that want to be action-oriented, given what's happening with social media?
Walk toward the fire and use your voice, because if you don't use your voice now, you may not be able to use it in a few years.
Are you, now, the people that put it on, Amy Kramer and her daughter was on the day, they're going to do a big rally at noon at Georgia State House. And I got to tell you, what we're hearing out of Georgia, Amanda, you said at the beginning that Republicans that just want to, you know, if they lose, they just want to roll over. What we're hearing in Georgia is even worse than that. So this rally this Saturday, I think, is going to be a barn burner. Then December 12th, they're going to be back. What would you say for people that are going to participate in these rallies in the future? How should they come prepared, given the violence on Saturday night?
The first thing I would say is absolutely come with a group of people you know. I don't know if you guys saw this on Saturday, but you know, it's always a prudent and good idea when you are leaving an event like this to walk with other people. But what people got trapped into on Saturday was walking out, maybe they came to the rally by themselves or they had split off from their crew, but they were walking with a group who they thought were Trump supporters, people wearing MAGA gear, and then they turned on them and they realized that they weren't. So the most important rule that I can give people is come with a group of people you know, and do not depart from them. Do not separate, stay together as much as you can. And I would also say, come for the rally, come to support the president, come to support the recount efforts, but then get out of town. I mean, especially here in D.C., you guys saw what happened, and it was, people that were trying to get back to their cars and their hotel rooms and ultimately their homes. Just get there, have your voice heard, and get on with your life, get back home.
Amanda, how do people get to you, social media, and tell us about the show?
Sure. So my Twitter is, Amanda Head, The Hollywood Conservative, pretty much everywhere else. My website is thehollywoodconservative.us.
Amanda Head from Real America Voice, thank you very much for joining us today. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Stonewall Jackson. Who is he? Why is he important? And what happened to him?
So this guy was one of my favorite Twitter accounts that was not blue check mark, just a regular American patriot who built up a massive following on Twitter. He had 324,000 Twitter followers, which it is hard to get that many Twitter followers. That takes a lot of time and a lot of great tweeting. And he's sort of known on Twitter as an American history buff, as a patriot, as a, conservative, as a, free speech advocate. And this morning, he was retweeted 4 times by the president, and the president also retweeted with comment a couple of his tweets. And shortly thereafter, his account was permanently suspended by Twitter.
I mean, this is clearly violation of the First Amendment, right? This is why the Jack Dorsey thing ought to be shut down. I've said this from day one. They took our Twitter account down for one reason, because Jack Maxey and the team here put up the receipts for the Biden crime family, right? And and the Democrats think it's going away. Biden lost, so he's not going to be president. This investigation, Grassley just said they're going to have hearings, but it's going to be worse than that. There's going to be a special prosecutor assigned on this. The Bidens are a criminal family. Criminal family. And you can see by these documents they sold out their country. And to take a guy down that's been retweeted by the President of the United States is outrageous.
We've had multiple people compare this movement to the Nuremberg rallies and to the book burnings and all of that. Let's be very clear. Taking down someone's Twitter feed that might have tens of thousands of comments on it, an entire historical record of the last 5-6 years of their life, this is the book burning of today. These people are erasing history at will. They are the digital book burners.
It's what does Dr. Lee Ming Yang say about the CCP? They want to disappear you.
Yeah.
They want to disappear you.
It reminds me of Orwell's 1984, making someone into an unperson and deleting all records of that person, right? So it's as if he never existed, just like that.
What is the attitude out there in the influencers right now and other people that are part of the Twitterverse? Are they, because quite frankly, I don't, Twitter's really not my thing. I mean, we use it on the thing, so when to take it down, it's like, okay, big deal. But I know why they took it down, because of the great job you guys did of putting up. And we've got news for Jack Dorsey and the Biden crime family. All of your stuff's coming out in living color, and we're going to go through and highlight how you sold your country out. Okay, we're going to go through. It's his voice. And by the way, up on stage, can we show the photograph up on stage, hugging on the? I mean, have they ever responded to the text about the behavior of the? And you would have the gall to have that scumbag, and your son's a total scumbag, complete scumbag. Sold his country out, sold the Navy out, sold enlisted men out, right? Sold veterans out. This is the product of you, Joe Biden, right? And Jill Biden. This is the product of you. Sorry about getting personal, but this is reality. And to have him up on stage is revolting. I noticed you brought him up on stage after the voting. After the voting ended and you lost, and then in for the steal, that's when you brought him up on stage. But a special prosecutor should be assigned to that immediately to go through the receipts. And we're going to put it all up in living color. Okay? Just like we're going to I got to get Ron Claims, Mr. Chief of Staff. right, Mr. Chief of Staff,
While
with your warning.
We're
Yes, sir.
quoting the founders, and you talk about the Biden family and the sort of irregular kind of morals that they have in comparison to the backbone of America, the deplorables and the Lao Beijing of China and the regular common folk all over this world. From Samuel Adams, very appropriate for the Biden crime family. There is seldom an instance of a man guilty of betraying his country who had not before lost the feeling of moral obligations in his private connections. Samuel Adams.
Wow. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. Cory Mills is going to join us. We're going to talk about Texas, the rallies down. These rallies are all over the country. The support, and it's shocking, the establishment, the scale and the fierceness of it. Next.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. Now we're going to go to Texas and Cory Mills and talk about, listen, this thing about these rallies and marches, they're all over the country. Here's why they're important. Saturday, the establishment was in shock. They thought a couple of thousand people were going to show up and it'd be all despondent and be, sucking on their thumbs and, oh, poor me. Exact opposite. Massive in scale, positive in attitude, steeled in its determination. Not just to have President Trump's back. I think what's dawning on them now, they realize this is bigger than President Trump. President Trump is obviously the leader of this movement. He's president of the United States. He won a resounding victory on his re-election on November 3rd. What did you tell me before, Jack? What's the new thing? Remember the
3rd of November. This is sort of a reference to Guy Fawkes Day, which would be remember the 5th of November. But I think it's a general acknowledgement of the treachery at work here.
Why do I keep going back to this? This is signal, not noise. The signal is the power of it, how positive it is, how it's a rising movement, how it's self-organizing. You're seeing a new generation of leaders step forward. This is what a fourth turning's about. People who are totally obscure, you've never heard of in your entire life, are now, because of the fourth turning, going to start to come to the forefront. That's part of what Saturday was. This is why the establishment's stunned. They're shocked. They're shocked. Because it was out of central casting. And they're ashamed. They thought that they're street thugs, Antifa, and Black Lives Matter, and particularly the insidious way. Amanda Head brought up a very good point. This is how evil the other side is. They dress up in MAGA thing to isolate people, and you think you're walking with your fellows, and they start attacking you. Okay? This is thought through, premeditated, right? So, but we're winning. I want everybody in that audience that felt so bad on, remember, November 4th, we said, is this going to be a day that lives in infamy? The answer is no. We're fighting back. You got Rudy Giuliani, you got Sidney Powell. They're releasing the Kraken, right? They're in everywhere. We're gonna win these. Right now, you see what happened as soon as they get down to Georgia, right? You got this Dominion Systems. Oops, just found 3,600 votes, 70% of them from Trump. How did that happen? Gosh. This thing you've had Jenna now. The situation in Pennsylvania is sorted. We're going to do both the equal protection argument, and we're going to do they basically lied and hid these the mail-in ballots, right? The double thing. What do you got, Greg?
Yeah, so in pushing forward in Pennsylvania in those two avenues, the amount is just under 700,000 ballots. So that is key in getting us back to a victory in Pennsylvania.
700,000 and 70% for 78% for Biden. Listen, if you're going to steal it from us, you got to be stealthy. This is like in our grill. We're never going to back down for this. Joe Biden is illegitimate, illegal. Let's go to Texas now and Cory Mills. Cory, and I think we got some great B-roll. Cory, tell us about Texas. Tell us about the rallies. Tell us about the marches. Tell us about the people down there having the back of Donald J. Trump in this movement.
Well, first off, thanks for having me back, Steve. Such an honor. The movement in Texas was absolutely incredible. You could feel the energy, feel the patriotic sense that was in the crowd. These are not, just strict Republicans. These are, American citizens who are upset with what they feel is a stolen election, what they feel as the integrity of our electoral process being compromised. These are constitutionalists. These are young, old, white, black, brown, yellow, the elderly to the children. Everyone was out there in force. And guess what? No rioting, no looting. And unfortunately, because the left thinks that they've stolen this election, many people have had to put off their Christmas shopping. So, there wasn't the same type of turnout as you saw with this societal degeneracy that the Antifa and BLM thugs continue to use. And again, these were people who were coming forward, not about a Republican issue, not about a Democratic issue, but an American issue. One that understands that we cannot allow our constitutional rights and liberties to be violated by those who want to stop this Trump movement. I mentioned in the last episode, Steve, about the 1864 Lincoln plot to steal the elections there.
Yes, sir.
This is similar, where you have the anti-war Democrats that were known as the Copperheads who wanted to do everything to stop this abolition movement the same way the Democrats want to stop this Trump conservative movement. And they'll do anything to get at the heart of what it is that makes us tick.
When you said movement, I want to drill down this a second. Got about a minute and a half left. When you say movement, what do you think the basic tenets of this movement are that make it bigger than any of us, make it bigger than the Republican Party, even make it bigger than President Trump?
This is about what our framers created. This is about rights, liberties, and our Constitution. People think that this is a Republican issue. It's not. It's an American issue. People realize that the power resides with you as American citizens, not with our elected officials. The elected officials, they come and they go. But what needs to stay true is the conservative ideals, the upholding of our constitutional rights and liberties, our inalienable rights that can't be stripped away from us. And Americans are seeing that they truly have a voice and they cannot be censored by big tech. And we need to look at Section 230, but that's a whole different matter. But they cannot stop the movement. They cannot stop the American patriot from going forward. And that's how we got our independence to begin with. It's in our DNA, and they can't erase that.
Cory, how do people get more access to you, to social media?
You can find me at Cory, Cory Mills, MILLS _ Pacem, PACEM.
Cory, thanks for joining us here in the War Room today.
Steve, my pleasure. And again, I still want to talk to you about that 1864 Lincoln re-election. It's worth mentioning because there's a lot of parallels.
We're definitely going to have you on. I want to take our time and enjoy that one. People forget when Lincoln ran for re-election, he didn't run as a Republican. Ran in the Union Party. Did not run for re-election as a Republican. And he ran against, obviously, McClellan. Ran against his chief, his general-in-chief. He ran against McClellan. But no, he ran with the Union Party with Johnson in Tennessee.
Well, those who betray us in our own party are always the cowards, dating all the way back to McClellan, right?
To tell you, McClellan was a piece of work. Did organize a great army. Like it when Lincoln said, "Hey, can I borrow it? Maybe use it myself." Okay, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. You're going to have the War Room Posse. We're going to go through what in the heck is happening down in Georgia. This consent with Stacey Abrams. Turns out it's a secret document. Also, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Jack Maxey will be talking about that in Midge, about social media. All next in the War Room.